Now we're going to take a look at configuring our production model that we had defined up here to use those input tags that we had defined here. So first I'm going to add a new cell, and that will be for the case packer. Now notice the order of the machines isn't necessarily what we want. So I can click on the filler and I can move it up. And then I can take the capper and move it up as well. And keep in mind that, as we covered in the downtime section, the order of these machines is not necessarily match the flow of material through the line. It is in the order of most constraining to least constraining. So if the filler shuts down, we can never regain that production, and that's not true with the case packer. But if you go back to the downtime section on the training videos, we cover that in detail. So now I have the filler selected here, and which is the first machine on the line and in our example here. And the case packer is going to be our last machine. So the filler, we're going to be accepting bottles, and then on the case packer, those bottles get put into a case, and we're going to have cases coming off. So I'm going to select the line here, and then select the OEE tab here. And this is where we set up our production counts and settings dealing with the OEE. We have the product Infeed here. So I'm going to add a new item, and I'll call it bottle Infeed. Then I'm going to select the tag where we're reading in the number of bottles that are entering on the line. So I go down to North Line, PLC, because this is an input into the OEE system, so I want to go to PLC, not OEE, down to the filler, and then pick up the Infeed count off the filler. And this value here is every time the count in the PLC rolls over to 0, this is how much we should add to our production count. And our units are bottles. And then once we've entered that in, it's very important to select that as the primary Infeed. And the calculations in the OEE system will not calculate correctly unless that is selected properly. And we can have multiple Infeeds. And then we do the same thing for the outfeed, and I'll call it case outfeed. Again, we'll select our tag that represents the count of cases going off the line. Down in PLC again, case packer, outfeed. Again, there's our max, our amount to add every time it rolls over. And then we have our default standard rate and default package count. Now these settings can be, the default is set here, but they can be overridden by product code. And we'll talk about that later. But for right now, we will just put in 10 cases per minute. This is the units that we use for that. We have minute or hour. And let's say we have a 12 pack. So there's 12 bottles in each case. Production unit cases. And the production units can be anything you want that's appropriate for your environment. They're just available. You can display them on the screens and different things like that. This waste transit time has to do with waste calculation, and we're not going to go over that now. We'll cover that later on in the waste section. So that's saved, and then likewise, we need to select that as the default. So that sets up our production counts. Next, we'll take a look at configuring our downtime state tags for each machine.